I'm Brady Forrest. You can see all my panelists up here. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to launch into a conversation about data, how they're using data, and how it affects their future and their businesses. Directly to my left.
I'm Feyzi Çelik. I'm the founder, president, and CEO of OnePin. We're based in Boston. And Chris and Andrea, COO, and our CMO, they're with me today. We flew from Boston yesterday, and we're here for this event, and we'll talk more about OnePin.
Can you tell us a little bit more about, you've been doing it for 22 years, so it must be interesting.
It is very interesting.
What does OnePin do?
We're definitely not an AI company. Wake up, everybody. We're going to hear interesting entrepreneurial stories, and we are a data company. Our customers are mobile operators, and we contract with them. And why telecom operators are important? Because if you think about it, there are not that many of them. Usually there are 3 of them in each country, and they collect immense of data. And we're right in the middle of it. And we deployed our software. It's a small software that goes onto the SIM cards that's operator controlled. And we deployed, as of last week, 930 million software applications into 15 countries, 20 mobile operators. It's immense of data. This is the most secure chip in the network. And our application communicates certain events in the SIM as well as in the network. And we take that data into our cloud server. And we do a lot of interesting things. And we're going to talk all about that. So we are a data company, and why we're here, because we believe AI, it has its own life. Look at mobile, look at internet, what it has become in the last 20 years.
All right,
I think AI
we'll get into that. We'll get into that next. We're out of the intros.
Oh, go on. Okay.
Olivia, take it away.
Olivia Gebhardt, founder of Seismic. We help data and analytics teams find the root cause of issues within their data pipelines to speed up issue triage. So when you move data from point A to point B, you normally do it with a litany of complex tools, and it's really difficult to figure out exactly what actually happened and what went wrong. So we plug in with a single line of code into data services. We don't do data storage access, and we're highly compliant in order to actually speed up that time and help teams triage as quickly as possible.
All right, and we're in Boston, now you're in New York,
Yes.
And where's the company?
It's technically remote right now.
All right.
Co-founders.
And what type of companies do you work with?
Variety is the short answer. There's kind of 2 different profiles. There's one profile that ends up having a lot of customer data coming in, more e-commerce, ad tech, things of that nature. They're interested and a little bit overwhelmed in just maintenance. And then the other one is a little bit more regulation heavy, where there's an audit component. So they need to make sure the thing it ran on time, and what actually happened. So it's not necessarily super complex pipelines, but it's just a bank will be very upset on the other end if something went wrong.
I've seen that happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and Christopher, you know a little bit about supply chain and finance.
Yes.
Will you introduce Clear?
Yes, thanks. My name is Chris Hale. I'm the founder and CEO of Clear. Clear is a financial technology platform focused on digitizing and capitalizing some of the world's most important supply chains. So about a third of enterprise spend with the Fortune 1000 goes to small companies and medium-sized companies. It's about $3.5 trillion. And we focus on sectors like aerospace and defense, healthcare, telco, like Marlon mentioned, and others that are really, really important supply chains, have to work all the time. And about a third of their participants are tiny little companies using God knows what kind of system. And so we help them mature to the level that their critical inputs to those supply chains get where they need to be, are well capitalized, and help the world work better. And they were talking about all the stuff we need to build. Our users have to help build them.
All right, and what markets are you in?
We're primarily focused on the US and Europe right now. We have a long history in Africa, working in healthcare, but we're focused on the US and Europe today. Offices in Sausalito, and we have people kind of all over the country.
Got it. Well, thank you all for being here today, and with this great group here. So what are some of your biggest data concerns facing you right now? Olivia? kick it off?
Sure. So I guess I have a slightly different perspective. The data concern is not necessarily mine, but companies we're helping. So we plug into the data surface itself, and I think one of the things that people expect is you set up a pipeline, you hit the API, you bring the data in, and then everything's great because I made it work once. And it's done now, right? Like, you have that front end, you have it in the software, and it's fantastic, ready for customers, never needs to be touched again. There's a difference with software engineering to data, which is data is always changing. And so there's a constant need to revalidate that information. A lot of it you're seeing in ML ops and other things of that nature. But it's definitely something that companies are just starting to kind of catch up to. There's a huge maintenance component where normally about up to 30% of a data engineer's time is just spent making things work after they broke again, even though you didn't expect it to break to begin with. And that's normally not factored into team setup, how they run, the expectations of sprint timelines, anything like that. So it can really slow companies down.
Chris, do you have anything to say?
Sure. Yeah. So we use the word supply chains, but supply chains are technically networks. And if you were focused on a transaction where a bank was installing a server into a data center that they bought from a small company, and that small company was financed by a different bank, and the small company was selling the server into a systems integrator who was installing that into a system, and you asked all those parties whose data it was, they'd all give you the same answer. They'd say mine. And so if we're going to make decisions around that data, especially with things like artificial intelligence models, it's really important to figure out what the correct answer to that question is.
And how are you using AI models right now?
Very lightly so far. The way that we think about artificial intelligence in our business is money is basically a decision about to be made or an outcome recently delivered. That's the only reason it's sitting in money. Otherwise, it's in some product or service that's happening. And so artificial intelligence, we believe, can help make those decisions further from the core, and organize disparate and unorganized information to make better decisions. I don't think we are anywhere near a place where artificial intelligence is going to make those decisions, but can feed lots of uncoordinated and unstructured information to the people that do.
And provide a lot of advice.
Yes, that's right.
And Faith,
Okay.
what are you thinking? Now's the time.
Okay, let me go back again, continue the story. AI has its own life, all right? And AI is going to be in a different place 10 years from today, all right? We have no control. It's going to progress. It will get better and better. However, I think what makes AI better is the quality of the data. And at OnePin, we have fresh data because we're in the center of operators network. And on the SIM, we collect the data from the SIM events as well as network events. And we also collect the feedback from the end user on what they do on the device. As a result, we have a fresh data that cleans up by itself on an ongoing basis. So in terms of the quality data, we have the quality data. So the key is how we train the AI. OnePin is a great example, how we can be a part of the AI systems as they develop and make progress that use the clean data like ours, where millions of people's data comes in. We do about 300 million commercial mobile transactions in our system on a daily basis, on a monthly basis.
On a monthly basis.
It's
300
big
million
data.
transactions.
Yes.
Wow.
So that's
where do
quality
you-
is very important,
So
correct?
you said that you're not using AI
Correct,
right
not,
now in your
no.
business, but where do you see it coming down the pipe?
I think AI systems will use our data.
Okay.
Right.
So you're going to become a data broker?
Probably.
Okay.
But the way we use the data is mobile operators today, telecom operators, sit in a very interesting place, right? Because Android and iOS took over control of the mobile device, correct? And mobile operator owns the end user, but they are out of the advertising and marketing business where billions of dollars are generated on a daily basis. So they want to take a big portion of that business. And we sit on that data. Our customers are mobile operator. and they don't know their customers that well. As the organization gets bigger, telecoms are very big, they don't know their end user. We sit there, we collect data. With their permission, we have a very unique data set that's very interesting, that we collect that data, and now mobile operators together, using our platform, opening that to content providers and brands for advertising. And they want to take a big portion of that industry.
Do you think you would ever use AI on that data for internal
Probably, of course,
decision-making?
absolutely. It's not, again, we're here
Yeah.
to understand who we partner with. We understand the industry because we sit on a big chunk of data. Who do we partner to make our marketing and advertising platform better so that internally how we use the data better, clean it up, but also how the third parties, content providers or advertisers, they come in, how can we make their life better so they can target the end user in a much more efficient way. So that's our business. That's why we're here. That's why we're learning AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Chris, are you also going to become a data broker?
I doubt it.
No.
No, I doubt it. Our customers, like we work heavily in, like I said, aerospace and defense.
Yeah.
Our customers are more worried about, partitioning of data and control of data. So it's not really a data set that's ours to broker.
So how does data sovereignty in different geographies affect your business?
You can tell, it makes me tired.
Yeah.
So we have a couple big opportunities that we're pursuing, and that's kind of a part of the big question. So as a relatively small startup working with enterprise customers, that's part of the table stakes that we're trying to figure out how to manage. You come up with these unique solutions that work fantastically well in a closed market, and then you start crossing borders or start crossing jurisdictions. And
Can you provide us an example, a concrete example?
yeah. So we worked when we worked first in East Africa. That was our first market. We were working kind of in a closed loop system where a lot of the players worked for the OEM making the healthcare equipment, and their distributor was our client, and the end customer was the Gates Foundation was our client, and everyone was on the same page. As we've scaled, we're looking at expanding into a couple markets in Europe and then even the UAE as a potential partner. And you kind of think about where the players in this supply chain network are domiciled and the fact that they all think it's their own data and they all want the value that we can deliver in terms of decisioning. But the data has borders according to certain players in that supply chain. And so how can we deliver the same value around that decisioning while complying with the borders that are being set up by the anchor tenants, but continue to serve the small and medium businesses who are actually our customers?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like, are we in the building? Are we out of the building? What four walls are we actually operating inside, and how do we know? Is a challenge that we're facing right now and looking to solve.
Mm-hmm. And Faizi, how does this affect your business?
Data sovereignty. And well, we're in an interesting business. Telecom operators work in a well-defined rules and regulations. If you look at it, the country, each country has their own data sovereignty, data rules, privacy rules. So we're automatically in that environment, in that platform, that we need to go with the rules and regulations, and we need to make sure that the end user has the opportunity to be on a do not disturb list, or to be able to opt out, to be in the opt-in environment. So we're automatically in it. It's, we work with the mobile operator to provide the best experience, customer experience to the end user, because through the SIM, we provide an user interface, that's the customer experience screen, that we can collect that data, and we become a really channel for the operator to be able to control all that user preferences. All right.
Olivia, this must be your bread and butter.
We haven't run into crossing borders yet, but in my previous life, yes, I had to deal with this, and a lot of factors include the opt-out capabilities, GDPR, California's regulations, just every single domain has a different requirement. And I think one of the main things end up being, it's not as simple as just landing a client in a certain area and then moving forward. You actually have to like plan for it. I'm even hearing some of the other founders I know are actually even switching from .ai domains into .com because European regulations have issues with connecting there. So something as simple as just your website actually starts impacting a lot of things that you didn't even expect.
What country owns .ai? What is that?
Antigua.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's technically governed by the rules of a country domain, which is very different.
No. I remember just like Bitly and some other Libya countries for LY. Suddenly there was like a big scare they were going to lose their domains. Yeah, that's real. So when you're working on your data assets, how do you justify work on it, and what type of ROI are you looking for as you tend to your data?
How do we justify working on the data? Well, so I think one of the most interesting use cases for AI in my world is, finance is all about decisions, making good decisions on a consistent basis. And the cost of making that decision is going to go down dramatically as AI proliferates across finance. And that's incredibly powerful because it's going to impact everything else, right? The cost of money is in every product we buy today. It's like the cost of energy. It's the same thing. And so as we get better at making those decisions, and we can, I don't want to use democratize because that's confusing, but proliferate the use of AI in those decisions, I think it will be profoundly impactful in terms of who can participate in these kinds of networks. And so as we're thinking about, investing in improving these decisions and investing behind talent that can help develop our models to make those decisions, we're looking directly at pricing. We're looking directly at how, that can influence the cost of a system. Because one of the things a lot of people don't know about supply chains is they're pyramidal networks, right? You sort of have an anchor tenant, and then you have all these players, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. All those costs are actually fed up to whoever's driving that activity, but they don't know what they are. And the more you can network that supply chain and proliferate those decisions, the more you can influence that cost structure.
Return on investment
Yeah.
means different for us, our customer mobile operator, and also jointly, we have content providers and brands as our customers of the platform. Their ROI is very important as well. So we need to model this out across the board. The return on investment on the data set, we can handle that ROI. The mobile operator is happy because we do revenue share models with the mobile operators. So we're brokering the data for telecom operator is ultimately owner of the data. And then we open up to the third parties, that's the advertisers and brands. They need to, when they do the marketing, advertising, or subscription, a lot of the things we do with the mobile operator are subscription, like the telecom operator provides special data plans for Disney Plus, all right? So the return on investment on Disney Plus is very important as well. So we don't look at only our return on investment on the data. We have to, across the board, make sure that every player within the ecosystem is happy with their return on investment. It's a difficult task. Every day we have to work on contracts, make sure that the price points operate for everybody, and everybody is happy. It's monetization of data is critical. I mean, everybody talks about it today. And I think AI is going to help it make it better as we go forward, correct? So,
what do you think will be the first significant impact AI will have on your business?
very interesting. We look at it different parts of it, correct? Like we use AWS as our hosting data center across the world. We have Canada, North America, Europe, Africa. In Europe, we have 2 data centers. Again, machine learning was one element looking at it. Data capture automation was very important for us. Language models is very important to be able to capture the end user, content provider. We're trying to make it. That's why we're thinking AI today. One of the first things is to be able to use AI to capture the marketing, the text to voice to text conversion. It's one of the first things to implement and then build on top of it. I think one of the biggest challenges is we have so much data, the AI has to figure it out. All right, what is the data that's churned, that's old, all right? That's now, another regulation is coming in. You can't keep the data more than 5 years. Okay, so we need to get rid of anything more than 5 years, but we don't want to also implement a deletion that will impact the uniqueness of data, because you don't want to lose the history, because that will impact the AI's historical information. So all these technologies are very important, but I think the data privacy rules and regulations across the world globally has a huge impact on all of these things. And I think we're going to talk more about that. I think it's another topic to discuss. Yeah. The country is making rules on the data cannot leave the country. We'll talk. Yeah, it's a different subject.
Let's hit that next. I want to hear, like, how do your customers think about ROI?
There's kind of 3 different ways. One is, unfortunately, hopefully this is going to change soon, but data science and data engineering has a lot of times been considered a cost center as opposed to a revenue generating center. So one of the thoughts is just speed to deployment, speed to getting something out the door. Any change there that you can change it from, oh, this took an incredible amount of time for this team to get ready and deliver something, into very quick, ready to go, or maintainable systems or workflows, kind of changes that narrative a little bit, number one. Another one is just when you have a data pipeline directly related to what your customers want. I spoke to a public retail company who they knew something was dropped somewhere in their data pipeline, but they didn't know where, and it had been 3.5 weeks of them trying to figure out where it was, and they couldn't fulfill orders. I talked to another large public healthcare company that was doing inventory management, and the way that it was working was at one point there was an extra 0 added on something, and so it ended up actually costing them $1 million for inventory. And it's kind of one of those things where you hope it doesn't go wrong, and if it doesn't go wrong, it's not that bad. But if it goes wrong, it is really bad in a lot of cases. So I think a lot of times the shift has been around that. If a company is not as data-driven, it's a little bit harder to actually make the argument to care. I'm hoping people start turning around and thinking about that a little bit more. But I'm definitely seeing some like, oh, well, it's not software engineering, so. But honestly, I don't understand how people expect to compete, move quickly, and deliver value to customers without actually caring about what they understand about their business and their customers internally and externally, and that's all data. So
it's all data.
Yeah.
So let's get back to new regulations. Where do you see the world going in terms of new regulations around data, privacy, and how that'll impact AI? Whoever wants to take the ball first.
I'll take the.
All right.
Again, we deal with telecom operators, our customers. They're dependent on really the politics of the world. Like, we're coming from a globalization into a nationalism. I have a feeling like there are certain countries you cannot go in and deploy a technology. Like, their customers in the Middle East is a great example. They want to deploy our technologies. We cannot, because AWS doesn't have the hosting environment in those countries, and we built everything with the tools that AWS, Amazon provides us, and we're dependent on that. And it's very hard to explain them, hey, I can't take your data out to Europe or to the United States. So those type of political decisions, we coming from a globalization into a nationalism, is going to have some impact, I think. And those countries, I'll give some great examples. Turkey used to be a center for telecom innovation globally, historically. It's very interesting. Is it the culture or the telecom operators over there, 3 of them? They were the most innovative mobile operators, and they were the forefront. And then 15 years ago, the government came in and said the data cannot leave. I think it's just postpartum to governments using the data that they collect from these countries, created a reaction, and they said the data will not leave, data has to sit. And then, well, we were stuck in that country with a local server that's managed by the mobile operator, and the innovation stopped there because we continued to innovate in our other centers, and because the technology is not available there. So as a result, the country's technology came down, 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 and then they looked at it, they are 15 years behind on the global technologies. So now they reversed that decision. Starting July 2024, they allowed the data to come out. So there is a really adverse effect of nationalism and trying to keep the data within the boundaries of the country.
Where else are you seeing nationalism like rear its head?
I think most countries were able to stop themselves. They don't, but they just say, if the data leaves the country, the data that wherever is exported has to meet the requirements of the same country or has to be higher. And that way, it really, Europe, US, usually, US was in the blacklist or gray list for a long time, even because they didn't like the way the CIA or other agencies, how they use the data. But I think it's coming off the list, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
But this is a slow showstopper for the technology to grow if it becomes national. Hopefully, it won't.
Yeah. All right. I think we've got time for like 1 or 2 questions from the audience. If not, I'll keep going up here. Angela?
Just on this topic, what do you think the role of regulation should be in data?
Is that directed at anyone?
To me, I think.
What do you think? I'm just going to repeat the question for what do you think the role of regulation should be in data?
There is, I think, because companies are not good, correct, what they do with the data, unfortunately, all right? Because there are companies who want to do the best with the data, but there are companies that they just, like we experience in our social media, correct? You're bombarded with data that has nothing to do with you, and just they try to generate revenue from you, basically, because these services are free, usually. Regulation is an important factor in there. However, it should not really block the development of the technology. I have a feeling AI has coming, certain regulations coming, you see it, we talk about it, we read about it. It's whatever in for PII, the data privacy, individual privacy, I have a feeling it's going to similar way. Some regulation will come in, you'll not be able to control it. I think GDPR is overruling. We deal with it, Andrea and I, we manage our privacy rules and regulations. I think in the long run, it will really impact Europe. And what's considered PII, what is not considered PII, it will impact the industries and technologies developing in Europe. And I have a feeling Europe is going to take one of the first decisive rules on AI. It may impact the technology companies, but those countries are going to lag behind. Right.
All right. Daniel?
So, quick question for Olivia. We've heard from Chris and Faizi about just the sheer scale of data, the regulation, the environments, the decision making. But where do you see, at the end of the day, MLOps in 3 to 4 years as we continue to onboard all these systems and integrating with AI? What's that role of MLOps that you think that we're going to see expand over the next 3 to 5 years?
I've thought about this a fair amount. I think right now, MLOps kind of lives in its own little bubble. It's over in data science land. It's kind of controlled by the data scientists or maybe the data platform team. I hope, or I would view MLOps transitioning into more of like a data and data teams become more of a service-based organization like software engineering to deliver value and directly align with the product. If that's the case, I could see MLOps transitioning into something a little bit more like DevOps. a little bit more of a unified platform that comes together and actually like, you know, you have your performance, you have your GPUs, you have your cost, you have your data, you have your everything. Right now, it's kind of a chunk. I think a lot of people are planning on moving this direction and consolidating. But the interesting part is then you also have these large platforms that have kind of trapped people on them that do cost a lot. And so I think it's going to become more like software engineering longer term of like an actual setup. Data and analytics tools tend to be about 10 to 12 years behind software engineering, and software engineers are always shocked whenever I say that. But exactly what that platform looks like, I think it depends on getting data science into the actual product forefront as opposed to this kind of back office feature that exists, or maybe just deployment of AI chatbots.
Chris?
That question?
Nope. All right. Well then, I think we're gonna close this out. We're just gonna take a small break right now, and then we'll be up here shortly with Jesse and a number of other panels on infrastructure for rapid growth. Thank you all to our panelists.
Thank you.